Hello my friends, and welcome to another Get Crafty with It. In today's video we're going to be making medical masks. Now these aren't actually medical grade obviously because we do not have the proper materials for that, but I wanted to differentiate because I mostly do like face makeup and skincare, so these are going to be great. They're super easy, so let's get started with it. Alright, so first you're going to need a scrap of material. Cotton is the best material to use for filtration masks like these. It helps, like viruses, germs, things like that don't stick to cotton near as well, so cotton's going to be best. You can just use any old piece of cloth. It'll work just fine, and you're going to need to iron it out. It's not imperative that it's totally perfectly ironed, but you need it pretty ironed. So then you're going to take a 9.5 by 9.5 inch square, and you can just make this out of cardstock or any old paper, but it's definitely going to help you cut out the shape that you need in cloth. And especially if you're going to be doing multiple masks, this is super handy to have. You're going to want to square it up, and then you're just going to cut out that square. With material like this where there are definitive lines on it, it's super helpful. Makes it so easy to just cut along the lines. But you can also trace it with a pencil or something if that's helpful to you. Make sure that you get it pretty close to 9.5 inches, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Next, we're going to get some material for filtration. This is fusible interfacing, and if you have this, that is fantastic. Basically, this is used for clothes making, and you put it up against whatever material you're using and iron it on, but it's not necessary to have that. If you don't have something like that, you can just use another exact same 9.5 square from the same exact material. So then you're going to take those two squares, you're going to line them up. You can do one reverse so that you know which you want to be the back and which you want to be the front, or you can do them both facing forward, and you're going to line them up. Then I didn't show my sewing because I didn't think it was really necessary, because it's just folding over about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and make sure that you have a definitive back. Make sure that you fold both of them back the same way, and then you're just going to sew along the top and bottom edge, whichever you choose to be the top and the bottom. Then we're going to take our iron again, and this part just helps with the next part of sewing, so it's pretty important to iron this down. And you're going to make little folds, and these folds you can do them as thick or thin and make the mask as thick or thin as you would like. It just depends on your preference and honestly how big your face is. It totally depends, and the placement of your nose and jaw and things like that. But you're just going to iron down these little folds, and you make about 3 or 4 folds, and just keep ironing to flatten them out so that you have it nice and smooth and flat for the next portion of sewing. Okay, so next you're going to take your folded piece of material, and on the sides that obviously you didn't sew the top or the bottom of it, the sides, you're going to select whichever side. It doesn't matter what you do first, but you're going to fold the sides about 1/2 inch in and make sure it's facing whichever part you chose to be the back of your material, about 1/2 inch in. And you're just going to sew this down. If you do have a sewing machine, that is super helpful because it makes this part obviously a lot easier and a lot quicker, because the material is obviously getting very thick. And additionally, you definitely want a zigzag type of sewing pattern if you have a sewing machine like this. But if not, just do the best you can by hand sewing. Just sew it as tight and as close as you can, and that's going to help a lot. So you're going to do this on both sides, folding them both towards the back and just making it as tight and close together, 1/2 inch on both sides. And once you get it done, should look like this. The front should be pretty polished and the back will be messy, but that's just how it's going to be. Then you're going to take elastic, and there are two ways to do this. We'll look at elastic first. You're going to take between 7 and 8 inch pieces of elastic. You're going to need 2 of those, and it just depends on how far back your ears are or how big your face is. So you might have to test it out a little bit, bring the elastic around your ears and see how long you actually need it to be, but between 7 and 8 inches is usually enough. Then you are going to take one of those pieces, you're going to sew it towards the top, not right at the top, but about 1/4 inch from the top. Make sure that you go back and forth a lot. This part is a whole lot harder if you are sewing by hand, but it's not impossible. It just takes a little bit longer because obviously there's a lot of thickness there. But you should have it looking about like this, pretty tight and really, really well in there so that that elastic isn't going to slip out. Then you're going to take that elastic and you're going to fold it around, right? And you want to make sure that you're not twisting it. It needs to stay where it would be comfortable on your ear. So make sure you don't twist it around and accidentally sew it twisted. You're going to need it like a loop. And you're just going to sew in the other side and then sew in your other 2 pieces of, or your other 1 piece of elastic on the 2 different places. Alright, and by the end it should look like this. Pretty nice. It expands out so that it covers your nose and your chin, and those elastic pieces are right there on the sides ready to loop around your ears. So then the second way to do this, and this piece of material I made actually a couple days before making this video. I'm using that fusible interfacing that I was showing you earlier on this one. It is great because it makes it a little bit easier to breathe while still having a lot of good filtration. And I'm going to be using ribbon for this one. I use the same method to make that portion of the mask, but now instead of elastic, I'm going to use ribbon. And I'm going to cut out 4 pieces of 16-inch ribbon. And you are going to take 1 piece in each of the 4 corners that we just sewed the elastic in. And so same method essentially, except obviously you're not connecting the ribbons, you are leaving the ribbons untied and not connected, only connected in one of the 4 corners. I personally like the ribbons a little bit better than the elastic because it's obviously so much easier on your ears if you have, especially if you have sensitive ears or if you have small ears, which just make it really, really hard to keep something over them like elastic. That can be a challenge. So ribbon is especially helpful if you have ears like that. Alright, so here is the mask with elastic. You just go ahead and loop it over your ears and then expand it out over your nose and chin. And here are the ribbons. So for the ribbons, start right below your nose. You're going to tie the top ribbon up towards the top of your head, not on top of your head, but towards the top of your head. You're going to tie it in a nice tight bow. I don't like doing double knots or anything like that. Then I like to expand it a little bit, and we're going to tie it around the hair and at the bottom of your head, so like the base of your skull, basically on the back. You can also take your hair out. You're going to pull your mask all the way down to the bottom of your jaw. Pull your hair out if you have long hair like me. And then you're going to place the top ribbon over your ears to help keep it up. And the bottom ribbon can stay at the base of your skull, and I'll show you that in just a second. But I hope you guys learned something new. Please comment below if you have any questions for me, and I will see you next time. Bye, my friends.